Who here has an iPhone? Or okay. Who here is wearing a Fitbit or an Apple Watch at the moment? Some, all right. And then probably not the right audience to ask, but who owns a Tesla? That's what my script says, sorry. Well, you are in all ways, shapes or form an early adopter of the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is what I'm going to talk about a little bit. It is a revolution that probably only happens a few times in your life. And you're coming out of university and you're going to be part of a revolution, I think, in the global economy and the global industries that we're all part of. So what exactly is that? Well, today there are about 10 to 20 billion devices connected to the internet. Not just your phone, not just the Tesla car or the Fitbit, but anything. We just heard one of our prior speakers, you can put your air purifier on via the internet because you use your phone. There are many different applications and we're going through some of them. But what is going to happen is that by 2020 we think that there's more to 40 to 50 billion devices that are all interconnected and all talk to each other in some way, shape or form. This is a very busy slide. It comes with a lot of different things to consider, from liability, from cybersecurity, from opportunities, from entrepreneurial, for re-innovation, and all the good stuff that comes with it. So, oh, my apologies. So, AIG, big company. Oh, is innovation only for small companies? Let me help you out there. No, big companies spend big money on innovation because we need to make sure that smaller companies are not taking us out of our business models too far. But you will see there's room for small and big companies when it comes to innovation and spending money on innovation and allow innovation to take place. AIG came together with the Consumer Association in Las Vegas, and they make Consumer Electronics Association. And we built a white paper that you can download, because I'm not going to present the whole thing in the interest of time. It is free if you go to aig.com, IoT. It's very interesting for you, because I hope there will be definitely entrepreneurs in this room today. There's a lot of information and fun things to read of where we're going. Okay, so what happened? What allowed all of this to take place? It started with a phone that had an application on it, and you send a message and you could take a picture. Today, this is a computer that occasionally makes a phone call. And inside is where all of this is changing. In 2006, I think, when the first iPhone came out, it had a chip in it that could measure over 2 axes, right? You had the landscape and the portrait. That chip, to understand how it was held, was $7 worth. Today, the same type of sensors can measure 6 different axes and cost 50 cents. So these chips find their way into everything, from suits to electrical appliances, and they all start to measure different things, and it starts to talk to each other. So the mobile phone as we have it today, and this I thought was an interesting one, I read it off a page. In 1969, Apollo 11 put people on the moon. The thing that I hold in my hand is 1,300 times faster than what it took from computer power to get a rocket on the moon. The computer that they used weighed 32 kilos, and the processor in this thing is about 112 grams. So that tells you a little bit, and that is in my lifetime. So I'm a little bit older than most of you, which means in your lifetime, if you project this forward, we're living in a very exciting time indeed. So innovation or extinction, that's more or less where this thing comes down to. And for me, my most favorite topic here is, especially to you as university graduates, do not make the mistake to think that you're finished learning because you just had a fancy degree. It is only allowing you to learn faster than maybe the people that didn't have a university degree. But you will never be finished learning. And you continuously need to re-innovate yourself. You're looking at Rudi Spaan version 3.0. I bet you that my girlfriend asked for a version 4.0 soon, then take some of the bugs out. But Version 4.0 will have plenty of mistakes in it, as will the next version after that. But you're never finished. I can look at 3 moments in my life that I had to re-innovate myself in order to stay relevant for the company I work for. But it is not just persons, companies as well. Companies keep on re-innovating themselves, and if they don't, you will run the risk of no longer become relevant to the clients that you service. Entire companies and industries are disrupted. Uber is such a good example. It's a company without employees and without cars, and yet it is one of the largest taxi companies in the world. And there are more and more of those examples coming up of industries that are re-innovating or become re-innovated just by the new startups. So is it only people and companies? No, entire countries are re-innovating themselves. Singapore wants to be a smart country by, I think it was 2030. Jakarta, who would expect, in Indonesia wants to be a smart city, and I think they will have that certain milestones by as soon as 2018. Malaysia wanted to be, or is on their way to become a smart nation, and they've set themselves goals on what that means to them. In other words, it sits everywhere. And this is not something that is behold to just an individual in the room today. Let's talk a little bit about what opportunities comes our way. The opportunities are everywhere, absolutely everywhere. I throw some numbers around. It is expected that by 2020, the economic potential is 14 trillion. I don't know what 14 trillion means, but I got explained that is about 5 times the domestic gross product of the ASEAN countries combined. So let that sink in. So 5 countries, Southeast Asia, times 5, their entire economy is the equivalent of this number. So it is very large indeed. Let me give you some of these examples then. So where is the Internet of Things leading us? Take power plants. Power plants have huge turbines. And these turbines, I know I'm in insurance, have the habit of breaking down every now and then, causing huge interruption, losses in the power grid, loss of money, but also the repair. You now have chips on the rotation blades that measure the vibration. And just before something breaks, it will vibrate more. And it goes via the internet. It connects to someone that monitors computer screens and can see, based on the data that you receive, he can switch off the entire turbine and prevent a large claim from happening. That data is something that I want to talk about. Today, 90% of the data that is in the world today is generated in the last 2 years. Let that sink in for a second. 90% of the data today is generated in the last 2 years. That is the equivalent of about 150 million books per second in information. And all that data, whether this is on the blades, whether this is in the suit, as the video just showed us, on measuring the temperature, whether this is the Fitbits that you talk about, 90% of that data means you need fantastic types of computers to translate data to information. So IBM, to talk about another example, has spent over $3 billion in a computer called Watson. Watson is not on the shop here, the grocery or the pharmacy shop. No, the computer is called Watson. And Watson is a computer that gets smarter by itself. And it keeps on cranking out different combinations of algorithms to combine all the information that is available to all the data that is available and translate that into information. We were just talking over the coffee break, as in for insurance needs to be overhauled and re-innovated. Today, if you have a car, you buy your insurance policy once per year. There comes a moment, no doubt in my mind, that we have something dynamic pricing. You drive your Tesla, which is hooked up with the internet, and is hooked up with your insurance company. And you take it out for a drive today, and we discount, or you pay your premium for that day via your Apple credits. There comes a day that that happens. And then, youngsters, be prepared. The faster you drive, the more the premium is for that day. Why? Because we know that. Because the Tesla car, we have all the data. We know how hard you press the accelerator. We know how hard you pressed the brakes. All that data is available. There comes a day that that data is available to me as an insurance company, and I'll make sure that I pick the smarter drivers that are not doing this all the time. Okay, so these are just some examples. So all the data should therefore lead to smarter decision making. Let me give you another way of smarter decision making. We talked about re-innovation of entire industries. Farmers, it's like, huh, farmers? Another one of those older industries. Farmlands today have sensors everywhere on their land, and they measure the amount of moist in the ground. Has it been raining? Has it not been raining? How much rain fell where? How did it flow over the land? Where is it dry? Where is it not dry? How much minerals and how much fertilizer do I need on which part of my land? Combine that with driverless tractors, with driverless harvest machines, and you can see that an industry as farming is completely overhauled by something as simple as the internet with sensors spread all over the land. Another example, and one dear to our heart, is a real AIG example, tunnel boring, MTR stations or tunnels that are built. Also there, these machines can break down. And we had a good example on these machines running 24/7 by themselves. Most of the time you just put them in the ground and they run. And again, they have the nasty habit of breaking down, causing big claims. And here the sensors detected that something was not functioning correct. The alarm went off via the connectivity via the internet. Engineers stopped the machine, went for an investigation, and there was too much dust in a dust filter, and therefore it overheats. And because of overheating, you could have problems. So again, very simple application, but insureds that have that type of technology obviously have less claims, cheaper premiums, and henceforth, and it helps their own business model. So smarter decision making is another one that comes our way. Now I can't deny, because I'm still an insurance company as well, that we have to talk a little bit about liability. What does that mean? Well, we have driverless cars, right? The future is driverless cars. And cities like Hong Kong actually could achieve that very easily, if you ask me. I think Singapore is going to beat probably Hong Kong to it, but there are entire cities that want to go with driverless cars. Well, what I wonder, if you program the chip that makes these decisions and a child runs over the road, what is that algorithm going to say? Can choose to hit the child, can choose to veer to the left onto the pavement and hit another car or a parked car, or can veer the other way into oncoming traffic. There is liability considerations if you start programming these type of things on what the decision making is going to be. And that's fascinating. I don't have the answers, but I do know that our industry is going to pay those claims. And then the other thing is, whose mistake is it? Maybe the car yesterday was uploaded new software. So is it the owner's fault? Is it the manufacturer's fault? And maybe the internet was down last night and therefore it only half updated your Tesla. Where exactly is that liability going? It's just one example on the Internet of Things on what kind of ramifications this has on the global economy. And back for my industry, some people say insurance is really boring. Well, with this coming our way, I don't know how boring it is. I personally think it's very exciting to try to understand where this is going. We talked about driverless cars, then we have to also talk about cybersecurity, because anything on the internet can obviously go wrong, and we have a lot of bad people in the world today that would love to do something bad to either, whether these were the turbines in the power plants or the cars that are self-driving. I would be too. So, Internet of Things. There's at least another 15 minutes more of material, but I know we're running out of time. But feel free, aig.com IoT, and you will see different applications. For example, we have wearables. So people that have now chips in their suits, and they work on construction sites or power plants or chemical factories. And these wearables will will send data on how the person is behaving, how the person is in a dangerous situation. Is he lifting things that he shouldn't be lifting, or is he lifting heavily, or is he overexposed to heavy lifting of materials? There's all sorts of applications that is going to be happening by having sensors in your shoes, by having sensors in the jackets for people that work in construction sites. There's a lot more applications that we do not know yet, and that's where you have a job. Because this is taking off, it is only just taking off. So I rely on your innovations to listen in the future as to where all these little chips can all be connected to the internet and what can we learn from that. The other one is the use of drone technology. Drones, and back to insurance, we do before and after. So we can see before a typhoon and after a typhoon what the impact is. Christchurch earthquake, 2011, you could not go into Christchurch yet because most of the buildings were hanging one way or the other. But we have insureds and people that that are insured with AIG that wants to know what is happening and is my building still there. So drone technology and Internet of Things is another one of an application of IoT that is only just in its infancy. So how is this relevant to you? Here's the question, are you ready? Are you ready for this? Because this is the type of economy that you guys are gonna get into when you graduate. And at the risk of not being popular in a university environment, we talked about do not be afraid to fail. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. And are you prepared with your university background to be an entrepreneur and to reinvent? Because if I normally have my gripes with university professors is there's normally one right answer to their question. And I say, no, the beauty about entrepreneurial is you question something that everybody thought we already had the right answer for, right? And schooling, and I've got young kids, is sometimes limiting your innovation and your innovative behaviors because of the exact system that schooling wants you to do. You get a lot of knowledge with right and wrong outcomes. So therefore, I keep on saying, you need to re-innovate yourself. You need all that knowledge, because with that knowledge, you obviously think, and with that knowledge, you can apply, but it also gives you the tools to learn more going forward. So please never stop learning. The other point that I made is you need to keep on re-innovating yourself. And the word that I normally preach to everybody is passion. You need to have passion. It came up 4 times this morning with 4 different speakers. Without passion, there's not a lot that will happen in your life. Be this private and be this in your business adventures. And when it comes to entrepreneurial and leadership, one of my favorite statements is, you can't lead the cavalry if you think you look funny on a horse, right? You have to be able to yell, charge, and go for something. And that is very strange, because maybe you go, charge, and there's no one following you. And that has happened, and it has happened to me numerous times. But you can't take yourself too serious. So if you don't take yourself too serious, and you are willing to make mistakes, and you're willing to learn, and willing to never stop, and being hungry for information and new things, and you have the passion with it, you got a lot of good ingredients coming your way. So thank you very much, and time for lunch.
All right, thank you for your speech. You talked a lot about the big data thing, and talked about some practical and some security issues with this. But aren't there also some ethical issues? I guess from an insurer's point of view, you'd like to know every single thing there is to know about me. But seen from my point of view, and also what there has been talk about already with Google and privacy and all that kind of stuff, how do you think that should be addressed in the future, if at all, or do I just have to deal with you knowing everything?
No, it's a fantastic point. So let's answer it this way. Let's say there is a supercomputer and it knows everything about you. How many times you ran up and down the stairs today, how you drove your Tesla, where you went on holiday, how many times you used your mobile phone. And all of that will create a picture. And then what I say, there will be insurance solutions insurance solutions one day that talks about your health because we know how fit you are, or we know where you live, we know what your behavior is. I think at the end of the day, data protection will prohibit and limit some of these opportunities unless you volunteer that all that information becomes available to you. It is not only data protection that is that will bring in on limitations of the application of these type of things, but it's also regulation in its own right. It's just insurance regulation. If I look at my industry, there's always regulators that are very protective about making sure that it's financially secure who you do business with, and that we indeed, to your point, not misuse data. But I think you're gonna, you're speaking to someone without Facebook. Because to your point, I like my privacy. So I think you will be the judge and jury on how far that privacy goes. But
so,
to your point,
sorry.
if you use Google, right, or you use certain things, you give your information up. It's your choice.